Warning, the following program has been rated T for truth.
You can't handle the truth!
Oh, we think you can. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report with your host, truth warrior and mythbuster Kathleen Wells. The place where we distinguish fact from fiction, where data is used to drive points home, and where Kathleen takes the position that Democrats and black politicians have destroyed Black America. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Now, your host, Kathleen Wells.
Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. It's me, Kathleen Wells, your host. I feel like I haven't been here in a while because I wasn't here last week. I played a pre-recorded show. It was Easter, so happy Easter. Well, it's like belated happy Easter, right? Anyway, I have a guest this evening, but before I bring on my guest, there's a few things I'd like to mention. One is that, Biden announced that he is running for president, and in his audio announcement, he brought up Charlottesville. He brought up Charlottesville. Well, we have heard, in fact, we've heard on Larry Elder's show consistently, frequently, often, he plays the full audio of what Trump said regarding the Charlottesville episode. It was a tragic incident because someone was killed, yes. But Trump did not, when he said there was fault on both sides, he's talking specifically, this is clear when you listen to the full audio, Trump is talking specifically about the fact that there were people there who were specifically protesting the taking down of statues. And then on the other side, you had people protesting the statues being taken down. There were people who do not want history erased. History should not be erased because if you erase history, you repeat it. I'm all for, context. I'm all for people knowing history and knowing the information and putting things in proper perspective. Putting things in the proper context. You should not repeat history, or you should not erase history, or you will repeat it. This is so obvious. So Trump is accurate. Biden is misleading and mischaracterizing what Trump said. In fact, Trump explicitly said, he denounced the white supremacists and Nazi sympathizers. He denounced them. This is very clear. And actually, is it Sink? How do you pronounce his name? Cenk. I think it's Cenk Younger. He was on Washington Journal this morning, and he was making the same point that Biden made. Oh, if Trump supports white supremacists and Trump supports Nazis. I think Trump frequently has denounced them. But yet it's always this misleading stuff. And someone called in and said, well, you're Young, how do you pronounce his name? Junk Singer or something? He says, you're mischaracterizing what Trump said about Charlottesville. Someone called in and said that. And Junk said, oh, how do you pronounce his name? Junk? Do you know? Jeff isn't paying attention. He doesn't know. I can't remember. But anyway, the guy said they were chanting down with Jewish folks. And if they're chanting that, you shouldn't be in that crowd. As if the people who were involved in the protests knew or heard those chants. You're assuming they heard those chants, or you're assuming that they went there knowing that would be chanted. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Also, I spoke about the Southern strategy 2 weeks ago. That's not... First of all, what we learned from Dinesh D'Souza's film is that less than 1% switched parties at that time. Maybe and when I think about Democrats being emotional and motivated by emotion, motivated by feelings, that's how Democrats are today, right? They lack rationality and logic. They're motivated by their emotions and feelings. Well, that's how Democrats were back in the day, too, before the civil rights era, right? Wanting to keep their slaves. Yes, there was an economic component to wanting slaves, but if if slave owners were going to be recompensed for having slaves, their desire to keep slaves was an emotional desire to the extent that they were willing to go to war for that. So the Democrats back during the 1860s, during the Civil War era, or during slavery time, were motivated by emotions and feelings, just like the Democrats today. So irrespective of what you say about the Southern strategy, they have the same makeup. It's the same character back during slavery for Democrats that it is today. People motivated not by logic and rationality, but people motivated by emotion and feelings. So anyway, and another thing I want to mention is that Brian Lamb, who started C-SPAN, said that the media lied back when he first came to DC during the Vietnam era. They lied specifically about the Vietnam era, what was going on, the numbers, the data, so on and so forth. So the media has been lying to the American people forever and a day, at least since Vietnam, according to Brian Lamb. So why do we believe the media? Why are we so gullible when historically, or when we look at the evidence, the media has always lied to the American people? This is not something new. So, Democrats are gullible to have believed the media, to believe the Russian collusion business / conspiracy for 2 years straight. They're gullible and naive. They're not knowledgeable. That's it. Anyway, I want to bring on my guest. It's Richard Finley. He's the CEO and founder of the Finley Group. And we're going to talk about his I-20 high-speed rail project. He's going to tell us some details about that. And I'm very excited to have him. So Richard Finley, welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Well, thank you.
Well,
really enjoying your dialogue.
Were you enjoying that? Did it make sense what I said?
Yes.
Democrats back in the day, back during slavery, were motivated by emotions and feelings. Would you say?
Yeah, it was compounded by profit, but it was. When you have an opportunity, if you were to drive, let's say, up from Birmingham, where I am, to Washington, the considerable part of the trip is in Virginia, and you can't help but be amazed at the number of cemeteries that you pass if you get off the interstate going up to DC. And when my most recent trip up there, which was over a year ago, I was so fascinated, I just stopped the car and got out and went to read some of the monuments about the story of what battle that was fought there. And you look around and there were thousands of people who killed each other in a most brutal manner. So yeah, it was extremely emotional.
Mm-hmm.
These people would go, face to face, hand to hand, in fighting that war. Now, if you listen to the various comments as to whether it was about the economy or whether it was about slavery, whichever side you come down on, you have to realize that in order for you to take up arms and be prepared to kill or to lay down your life, that's a very emotional situation.
Mm-hmm. And I think, in Lincoln's second inaugural speech, he makes it clear that it was about slavery. But let's get to your high-speed rail project. Tell us a little bit. Well, Richard Finley, I'm speaking with Richard Finley. He's located in Alabama, and he is founder and CEO of the Finley Group. Tell us about your organization, your company, rather.
Well, Finley Group has been around for a while. I started the Finley Group over 30 years ago. I spent my first 10 professional years in the banking industry. I worked for a bank in New York, Atlanta, and here in Birmingham before deciding to hang out my shield and go the entrepreneurial route. So Finley Group's been around about 35 years. Over that time, we've done a number of what I consider to be very exciting projects. And, we've been a stable part of the community for over 30 years. Back in the early 2000s, right around the turn of the century, I was appointed by the governor of Alabama to serve on the Southern Rapid Rail Commission, which was a federation of states. At the time, it was Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. During the time that I served on the commission, we brought in Texas and reached understanding with the state of Georgia to participate as well. We had anticipated the federation growing, but it took a different direction after I left the organization. But the federation, again, was these southern states who were interested in increasing the speed along the Amtrak Crescent route. Thusly, they named it the Rapid Rail Association, and they worked to find ways to enhance safety at crossings, find ways to create facilities to increase the speed of the Amtrak train that ran from New York all the way to New Orleans. And for as long as the organization has been in existence, it has been able to acquire federal money to go towards that effort. Well, from 2004 up until 2009, I served on the commission and was successful in getting them to change the name of the commission from the Rapid Rail Commission to the High Speed Rail Commission. And we were able to work with the various state legislatures.
But let's fast forward to today. You've been working on the Finley Group has been working on their your high-speed rail project for 20 years. Tell us specifically about this project.
Okay, well, this project, came out of my last year on the commission.
Mm-hmm.
I served as chairman, and we always had several major engineering firms that dealt with rail transportation that were there to compete for the dollars that we had to study ways that we could enhance passenger rail.
Mm-hmm.
So out of that, a young engineer working with an international firm called AECOM asked me if it were possible for us to actually build a high-speed train.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at it and all the stuff that we had read. I said, I don't see why we can't build one. And she said, well, we're prepared to work with you if it's something that you decide you want to do. So I kept her information, and once I left the commission, I came back to my office and asked my people if this was something they thought that we could really do.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, we began to review all of the efforts that had gone on in the past and the things that were being talked about around the country. And we developed a position paper that we sent to Secretary LaHood, and we pointed out the things that we thought were misconceptions. And the first thing we pointed out was that based on Amtrak being the only passenger rail service operating in the country, and Amtrak operated within the freight system, there was just absolutely no way that you could get passenger trains running anywhere near 100 miles an hour within the freight system. So we suggested then that we had looked at ways of creating a separate infrastructure for passenger trains. That there was no way that the passenger train and the freight train could coexist within the same space. So if we were going to do passenger rail, and at the time, the President Obama announced that he wanted to see an interstate high-speed rail system built in America. Well, they put some money out, but since there was no existing high-speed system in the country, everybody went off in 10, 15 different directions, none of which were the correct direction based on the stuff that my team had put together. And so we presented to him the concept of, well, we stated that we need a separate corridor. We needed to separate passenger from freight trains. And the president wanted it to be interstate. So we thought that President Eisenhower had already provided us with the perfect corridor in which to incorporate high-speed trains, and that was the National Interstate System. All of the interstates have excess right-of-way, but if you're looking to build high-speed trains, then those trains need to be elevated so that there is no likelihood of any interference on the track, and they can attain speeds that were comparable to what the Japanese and the Germans were doing at the time and are presently doing now. So we spent a lot of time and effort doing the research. We talked with train manufacturers. We talked with train operators around the world. Then we met with the engineers that had been working for us at the Southern High-Speed Rail Commission, and they actually arranged a meeting between myself and Secretary LaHood where we talked about the project. Secretary LaHood sat, listened, and told me he liked the idea, he would support it, shook my hand, and I left then to go off and put the fine touches together to make sure that everything was coherent and would make sense to Department of Transportation and Federal Railroad. Well, once we got to that level, then we started, really to get off into the swamp of dealing with the departments of transportation, because everybody saw high-speed rail as something that would divert money from roads and bridges. So they immediately put up their barriers to try to stop us from doing it, because all of the state's Department of Transportation did roads and bridges. They were all basically highway departments. But anyway, the president had said he wanted an interstate system. So we chose a route along the I-20 corridor that runs from Atlanta to Dallas, involving 5 states. That's the only interstate system that is proposed by anybody. All the stuff you're doing in California is within California. There was a proposal for, I think, Los Angeles to Las Vegas. That's sort of sidelined right now. There is a project in Texas that is fighting its way through the courts, Houston to Dallas. And in Florida, Mr. Branson from Virgin Airlines has taken over a local commuter train system there and is working to increase the speeds on that train. So the I-20X, the I-20 Express, is the only project that is before the federal government now that is truly an interstate high-speed rail system.
And
yep.
The good thing about it is this project would employ, yeah, I'm saying that right. I always say that, employ hundreds of thousands of American workers. Talk about that.
If you look at, what the average Chamber of Commerce will tell you is that for every $1 billion that you spend, you create 40,000 jobs. Our engineers have projected that to build a system from Atlanta to Birmingham would be $4.5 to $5 billion. So that's 200,000 jobs just on that segment alone. When you calculate building out to Dallas, we're talking somewhere around the mid-30s in terms of about $35 billion. And we would clearly, at that point, create over 1 million jobs with this, just the building out of the system.
Mm.
When you look at the station sites, which is, a separate component of the project, each station site in and of itself would be a destination site within the cities that the train would stop. And each one of those destination points would be able then to create, again, thousands of jobs. And based on the economic analysis that was done in the state of Texas, just on their Houston to Dallas run, they anticipated that within the first 3 years of operation, the system would create pretty close to $10 billion in new tax revenue for the state of Texas.
Mm.
So it's a considerable moneymaker for the states, and that the station sites and the development that would go on around those station sites would enhance the property values, considerably, and the retail and commercial activity that would go on at the sites would be significant tax generators as well. So it's an excellent situation for local and state government to be involved in, and we have met with at least 3, and I narrow it down to those 3 because these are the ones who are operating a system that are building the trains and the equipment themselves, who have all sat down and reviewed our proposal and expressed to us, one in writing, their willingness to come on board and finance the project for us. Our biggest problem is that, again, there is not an operating system within the country.
Oh, wait, Richard, there's my music. Why don't we go to a break right now? We'll come right back. We're going to talk about specifically how to get this done. You've got private financing, and you just really need a thumbs up from the White House. And, like a thumbs up, this is a good project. We'll be right back. This is the Naked Truth Report. I'm talking to Richard Finley with the Finley Group out of Alabama, and we're talking about the I-20X high-speed rail project. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You see, don't forget to get your five books, the library pack at powernomics.com. Powernomics.com, Dr. Claude Anderson's library pack, 5 books for $99. And then you can learn why Black Americans, Native Black Americans, remember I call us Native Black Americans, have been relegated to a permanent underclass. You can learn the policies that have been, you can learn the history. This is important to know American history, don't you think? So this ties into Richard's high-speed rail project, because this would employ, Black Americans have been relegated to a permanent underclass. We will be at zero median wealth by 2053, no doubt about it. This is the data, and if we can be employed. If this high-speed rail project can employ Black folks where they are mostly in areas where they have a high population, like Atlanta and Dallas and Houston. Tell us again the cities that the high-speed rail project would go through, Richard?
Okay, it runs from Atlanta to Dallas, stopping in Birmingham, Jackson, Mississippi, Shreveport, Louisiana, and Dallas, Texas. Now, there are some additional plans for possible additional stops based on communications we've had with some cities that are strategically located between our destination stops. So we're in conversation about that. But I was listening to your commercials, and the thing about the homelessness, I can't understand why we're opening up the floodgates to the south for additional people when all of your major cities have a homelessness problem. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that the I-20 Express will do is allow for people to move further out of these large metropolises and be able to commute or to work in either Atlanta or Dallas. That Dallas has the 5th largest economy in the country, and Atlanta has the 9th largest economy. And in between, with Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, is a tremendous opportunity for growth and for housing. So the train can not only be a lifeline, but a significant stimulus for this corridor of the country. It would change the economy within the Southeast dramatically. And Dr. Anderson and I have had any number of conversations about it, as you're aware. Mm-hmm. And he's a strong supporter of the project. And we're hoping that with strong voices like yours and Dr. Anderson's and the other people that you're aware that we've talked to over the last year or so, that we will have an opportunity to get an audience with the president. And people keep saying, well, why do we have to sit down and talk with the president? Well, we have to do that because the bureaucrats, well, they're just that. They're bureaucrats. They don't make any decisions. They just move paper around. And this was, an Obama initiative, the high-speed rail project. So it has not yet risen to the level of presidential notice within the Trump administration. We are hopeful that now that the infrastructure conversation is about to kick off, that we will be able to bring the I-20X to the attention of the president and move it to the front of the line. As I said earlier, the only real interstate high-speed rail project that's on the table right now. We're getting tremendous response out of the private sector, and talking with our leaders across the country. They can see the picture. They understand the economic upside of the project. They realize that there's nothing to invent here. It's just a matter of building it out. The building out of the system is extremely labor intensive, so there will be hundreds of thousands of jobs created along with that, and an opportunity for this region. Once you get west of Atlanta, the region has not developed as significantly as has Atlanta and as has Dallas. So the train can provide the mechanism for the fill-in, if you will, and provide the opportunity for people to live outside of the major metropolis and be able to commute in a very comfortable fashion.
Right, and you have private funding for this, correct?
Well, we have commitments that, once we're at that point, there are potentially, as I said earlier, 2 or 3 partners who not only have the capital, they have the know-how, and so we're looking to form a partnership that will allow companies, like mine or black companies across the spectrum to step up and do a deal on an international level. And I think it elevates the black business community at the time that it is creating significant opportunity. And hopefully we inspire, younger black Americans to understand that all of these things are doable. You can, if you can conceive it and believe it, you can achieve it.
Right. Well, so basically you just need like a thumbs up from the Trump administration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it has to have the government approval. I'm dealing with 5 southern states.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can attain federal blessing, if the Trump administration will incorporate us into their infrastructure plans and say to these 5 governors that this is something that he wants to see happen, this is something that's good for the country, this is something that's good for all of the states that are involved. With that, then our partners, and I can say that they're international partners, our international partners have committed to step up to the table.
Mm-hmm. And this was something that would employ, because this was something that would employ millions, is that the hundreds of thousands of black young men, correct?
Well,
in these cities where they're densely, highly populated.
The opportunities for them to be employed will be there. Now we've got to do some social work to get them ready to step up and come to the table. But it's very labor intensive. But also for the black professionals, we will need hundreds of lawyers and accountants. There's opportunity for insurance agents. There's opportunity for contractors, architects, engineers, and laborers.
Yeah.
So what I'm asking for is that all of the black professionals should compete to participate within this project, and we will create enough opportunities. Since we're dealing with 5 states, we want to make sure that businesses in each one of these states have an opportunity to participate and to share in the benefits of the build out on this project.
Yeah.
But we'll also sit down with them when we're talking about, potential station sites and what kind of opportunities are presented at these sites, not only in the building of these sites, but in the operation of the support level businesses that will fill in at these station sites. So there are all kinds of layers of opportunities. And what we want to do is to lay the picture out and invite black professionals from across this spectrum to look at this picture and see yourself in it, find yourself in it, and as they say on the street, get in where you fit in.
Right. Well, anyway, it sounds like a good deal to me. It sounds like a good project. It sounds like something worth, as Kamala Harris says, having a discussion about. You should definitely have a meeting with the Trump administration. Why? Now, you and I have tried to make that happen. I spoke with Pastor Darrell Scott, and, he's with Trump all the time. We can't seem to get in the door. I think you should at least have, this would be a feather in the cap of the Trump administration, as I see it. It would also, the fact that Black America is going to be facing zero median wealth by 2053, it would help to stimulate the Black America. We need stimulation. We need a new deal for Black America, like Trump said during his campaign. To me, this would be this is a good thing. It's a win-win. Infrastructure it should be bipartisan. Infrastructure to me, it sounds like a good deal. You have private investment, but the fact that we can't even get you a meeting in the White House is bothersome.
I'm confident that it's going to happen, and with a lot of these folk, that we've talked to, and we've had this conversation. These people are they have an opportunity, I guess, for whatever it is they're trying to do, and they have not, in their history or their lifetime, seen Black people put together a deal of this magnitude, which would be on not only just a national level, but an international level, would be in the billions of dollars in the build out and create, hundreds of thousands of job opportunities, as well as thousands of business and entrepreneurial opportunities. So most of our people have not thought at that level, have not had that vision. It's been an individual case, but
so why are you confident it's going to happen? Because you and I have been like trying to make it happen, just getting a meeting. And we're just met with resistance or gatekeepers everywhere we turn. So why are you confident it's going to happen?
Well, because it's sort of like coloring in the picture. The more points we reach, the more numbers we reach, the more the picture gets filled in, and the more people are able to see the picture. Everybody that we've talked to, and we won't call all of the names that we've talked to, but they're all well-placed people. They've heard it. Whether they could imagine it or see it or not is the question that we have, but they've heard it. I'm confident now that the I-20X is floating around Washington, and everybody that has heard it has contact with other people. I tell you that I had an opportunity a few weeks ago to meet with Henry Childs, who is over minority business development for the White House. And when I introduced myself and started to introduce the project, he had heard of the project. He had talked with somebody else about the project. So I said, well, okay, so now you know, and here's some additional
but that's because
data.
I emailed it to him.
So
remember?
I need you to move.
But the thing, remember we talked to Pastor Darrell Scott, and he was just like blocking, he just wasn't positive.
Yeah, well,
and that bothers me.
Yeah, it's something to be of concern with, but I've been at this for a while, and I recognize that it wasn't an easy thing when it started, and I have to say that each contact we make is another building block toward getting to where we want to go. So we're making progress. With your help, we're reaching people across the country. The I-20X is becoming lunchroom conversation now. People are talking about the possibilities. Everybody who stops to give it some consideration can see the potential, the possibility, and can also see that it's something that can be done. There's nothing to invent. It's just a major project that the federal government should embrace, and all I ask them to do is embrace the concept, and we'll raise the private money. We won't have to come to the public for money. We won't do as you're doing in California, asking the taxpayers to pay for the project. We will build this with private dollars, and we will operate it privately, so that the profit motive will be driving us to make sure that we get as many passengers and make those passengers as happy as possible. And at each station site, we will add significantly to the cities that we build those stations in. We're trying to coordinate now to hopefully get all of this moving before the end of the year, so that we can designate opportunity zones in conjunction with identifying potential station sites, so that we can make sure that private investors will have an opportunity to reap the benefits of the tax incentives that come with opportunity zones to want to invest in those station sites. So it's a rippling effect. Each opportunity creates 2 or 3 additional opportunities that those out there in your audience who are entrepreneurs can see the possibilities of this kind of major economic activity. And
I want to say, if there's any truth warriors or mythbusters out there that can get this in front of President Trump, please contact me, send me an email, call me or something. Like, if you can even get it to like Ben Carson or something. I've been trying to get it. And it's just like roadblocks. I don't know why. I can't get it, because just to sit down and discuss it, I think it would be a feather in the cap of the Trump administration, a high-speed rail project privately funded. I think
Well, and it's, you have to understand, the naked truth of it is that, nobody has had anybody who looks like me come to the table with this kind of mega deal.
no, I don't. I don't like you to say that, really.
No, but that's the reality of it. That's the naked truth of it. So, they hear it, and then they have to look at where it's coming from, and it's just part of our history that people who look like us don't bring these kind of deals to the table.
I just can't. I just can't believe that. I don't believe in limit. Maybe I'm naive, but I just can't put that thinking into.
I'm not saying that it's a limitation. I'm just saying to you that that's a barrier that you have to mow through.
Well, no, I think if Pastor Darrell Scott is buddy with Trump, and we've talked to him, I've spoken with him several times. He's smiling in Trump's face, taking pictures and all that. He is someone who could get you that meeting with Trump. You see what I'm saying?
Well, you have to understand also that in our history, and we are Native Americans. We were here before America was incorporated, and we were here at America's incorporation and have been here ever since. But in the whole process of enslaving and retarding the progress of black people, they always used other black people to do it. So we've got to recognize that there's a lot of that residual effect of slavery that continues to linger. But I'm convinced that, these people are capable of waking up and seeing that here's an opportunity for us to step up to the plate, make America be America. And we're here to play. We're here to participate. And all the fun and all the money is not just going to be made by white boys any longer. We want to play in the game, and we want to play in the major leagues. And we can step up on the stage nationally and internationally, and we can get this project done. I've had conversations with entities from around the world, and none of them have any problem with doing business with us. We've just got to get America to be America and recognize that your darker children are prepared to play, and we will continue.
But I don't see it like that. I see as if Trump heard this project, I think he'd love it. Okay. I see it as Pastor Scott and all these other folks that I've spoken to precluding you from having that meeting, blocking it.
Well, I
don't think, if Trump heard this project, I think he would love it. He's a businessman.
Well,
do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, and I think that, I think it's going to happen. I think we're close to it. I think that the fact that we're having this conversation over your airways gets the message out. It's growing every day, and my challenge is to be ready when the door opens, and I'm convinced that it will open, and that we are prepared to move forward, and we can bring about a new day, and
yeah. Someone on my live stream is asking about Ben Carson. Someone told us that they had a Ben Carson connection, but they didn't come through. You guys have no idea what we've gone through with this project. I've been helping Richard Finley with this project for months. You will not believe how many people I've talked to. Okay, this is why Black people are a permanent underclass. You will not believe how many Black folks who are sitting there with, in Trump's office, smiling and all that. People I've had on the show. You will not believe how many people, because I can't believe it. Because people, when I hear something good, when I hear something positive, I can at least, someone can get a meeting at least. You will not believe the Black folks who have blocked this, or who have talked and couldn't make it happen. You will not. It upsets me. It upsets me because I'm a doer. I get things done. And for us to have to go through all these hurdles, talking to people, it just bothers me. Okay. I believe in getting things done. I don't like to have to go through all these hurdles. I don't even want to name the names of people I've talked to about this, but it's ridiculous. Anyway, I want to thank you. There's my music, Richard. Thank you for being, I'm getting upset when I think about it. When someone, what about Ben Carson? Yeah, someone told, oh yeah, we can get, oh please, I can't take it. Anyway, I want to thank you, Richard Finley, for being a guest on my show. And we're still going to push forward, right?
Okay, we're on it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being a guest. That was Richard Finley with the Finley Group out of Alabama. And this is the high-speed rail, I-20 high-speed rail project, okay? It's a good deal. It's going across 5 states, employing hundreds of thousands of Americans, and specifically Black Americans, because Black folks predominantly or disproportionately represent these areas. This is us getting out of being a permanent underclass. This is us getting out of being at zero median wealth by 2053. Make the connections, connect the dots. Okay, I'll see you next week. I don't know what I'm going to do next week, but next week is the new month, right? Okay, we're going to be in May. So I'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.